Thank you, everybody. Thank you once again for joining us for this session. Again, my name is Abigail, and whilst the talk is going on, please do all to share as well. Let's get social. Yeah, so our next speaker is Michelangelo, and his title is on non-code contributions. Welcome. I think this talk is actually very important in the open source community. Usually we hear a lot about the coding and no, what about the other ways of contributing to open source? So yeah, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Abigail.
Let's give him a hand.
Hello. Thank you. Hello, everyone. And yeah, today I'm just gonna tell you a story, basically of what happened to me in the past years and why I do believe that to make open source really have an impact for the greater good, yeah, we need also and especially known code contributions. So before starting, any of you is a known coder? Well, all right. So, guys, this is for you to try to attract you in our funny things. So first, who I am and why I'm talking here. So essentially, I became a technologist by accident. I started my life as a humanist, but I always liked technology. So I ended up being an interaction designer. So I study how humans interact with technology. And I've been a growth hacker, which is a fancy way of a marketer with no budget. And I worked as a community manager. I founded Volumio, which is my main thing today. At Volumio, our mission is to let people enjoy music in a simple way. And we achieved that by building a Linux distribution for the Raspberry Pi, which is used by over 500,000 of people all over the world. And this also means I am a music lover and an open source enthusiast because, yeah, I believe that the best way to accomplish our mission was to use the open source way of doing things. And yeah, this goes, I dedicate this talk to all Volumio contributors. Volumio is a project which was born 7 years ago, and we would not be here without all the amazing contributions that have been done by all sorts of different people with all different skills, but all with the same passion and with the same goal. So this is for them, and of course for you. So before digging deep into, yeah, how can non-coders contribute, let's see the thing from a maintainer's point of view. So how can a maintainer foster this environment? First, I believe by acknowledging that every project, and I mean every project, will benefit from a multidisciplinary approach. No matter how technical your field of application is, involving people from different backgrounds will lead to a better results. And this brings us to the thing that open source is not made of just code. Because, yeah, when we write software, that's usually the result of a co-design process. Means some people get together, decide the specifications, and then it gets translated into code. And another thing, a project is a complex system. It means it has a lot of parts. They need to work together very well. And maybe sometimes they don't. That's where we got bugs and all of that. But yeah, we like to think, yeah, I have bugs because it's very complex. And in fact, it is. Another thing, you will forgive me if I treat projects mostly like with this startup mentality, because I believe there are a lot of similarities. Basically, in both scenarios, you start from scratch, you try to make an impact, and you hopefully think that more people are going to use and more people are going to work on your passion. So this is where they get similar. And in order for you to create a project which gets bigger and bigger, you need to create a set of routines or procedures. Simply decide how a bug should be treated, how a new feature is going to be designed. And again, you need a different kind of background to do that. And last but not least, it is my fundamental belief that if free and open source wants to keep on having a greater impact on society, humanity, we need a diverse environment. And yeah, we hear diversity, the word diversity, we hear it a lot lately, but it's not just a buzzword. I really do believe that it's something very, very important because, again, project can be seen as a complex systems, and to understand every little nuance, every little detail of complex systems, you need people with different backgrounds. Multidisciplinary equipes, anyone. And also, sometimes you can manage to do one thing better if you just step out of it, look at how it's done maybe in a different field of application, and replicate those discoveries, those findings there. So if all that sounds obscure, maybe we can clarify that later. And yeah, then how can a maintainer or someone which starts a project promote diversity? It is something that in the beginning you must enforce. I wish I did from the very beginning, but I learned later in the process, so this is why I'm sharing with you. The moment you start a project, start it with a mindset which is inclusive and promotes diversity. Be curious and demand that everyone which joins the project is curious. We don't need walled gardens, we don't need narrow-minded people to change the world, so you must be the first to show how it's done. And yeah, discussions, having constructive discussions is something extremely important, but from the top level, from you being the founder, you need to promote that. So never address anyone's suggestion saying, hey, it's a stupid idea. No, there's no such thing as a stupid idea. And also, there is no such thing as something we don't need. Yeah, okay, maybe you have some graphics. No, thanks, we don't need that. No. Please take what you get. And yeah, this brings to, don't dismiss confrontation. There's no such thing as wasted time when confronting. From my personal experience, the best decisions that we made in our project happened thanks to confrontation. Sometimes maybe very assertive, but we became bitter a little bit, but in the end, this led to way better decisions. Okay, you prepared the field, fantastic, great. Now you need to involve people to get people in. And I believe that's very important to understand why should, in the first place, people contribute, come and invest their precious time in your project. Well, we are human beings, we are social beings, so sharing a common goal is usually something that we all like. Gathering to a common goal is something that in the whole history of humanity produced great results, changed history, right? Then maybe solving a common problem. Maybe those people have the same problems of you, and they believe that you have maybe a clue or a possibility to solve it effectively, and they want to help with that. Because maybe also you have a cool project. It happened to me a lot, that people were joining because we were able to portray what we were doing, the boring things that we were doing, as a cool thing to do. And yeah, all of them, be assured, are joining and are contributing for a reward which is non-financial. Again, being part of something, solving a problem, making a useful use of their time. So why it is important? Because again, those people will be rewarded when they contribute. So try to figure out what it is and try to give to them. Do they want to make a difference? Empower them to do so. Do they want to solve the problem? Put them maybe on that specific task. So this is very fundamental. And yeah. Another, let's say, in the day-to-daily life, this is, okay, you got people, then how do you keep them motivated, actually? Again, promoting discussion. Discussion are healthy. Discussion might be unpleasant. But yeah, this is what makes us go forward. Then make it very clear that there's no top-down approach. It's not like I am the founder, I am always right, and you are always wrong. Very wrong. The best idea has to win, even if it is from the last guy which joined your project. If he has a better idea, the environment should acknowledge that, and that idea should be pushed forward. Then, super important, respect the fact that people are contributing their time. Is their hobby, is not their job. So, even though, of course, this is your project, you are heavily invested into it, but respect that for the others might not be the same. Don't give them deadlines. Don't ask for specific performance KPIs, because otherwise you will see them going away. This is a mistake I've did, especially in the beginning, and I've lost very valid contributors. So, number one rule, respect that this is an hobby. And then also, be prepared both to ask for help. Oh, I can't do this. Is there anyone which can help me doing that? This is especially powerful, just making visible something that you're struggling and maybe that is needed that has the highest priority, and say thank you when somebody achieves that or does something. Last, nobody likes hassles, so don't be one. This is one thing that really bothers me. When maybe I find a bug in other projects, or I see people on GitHub opening issues and raising questions, read the manual. I really think in those scenarios we are scaring people away. We are wasting potential talent just because we like, well, some people like to show off that they are the founders, or that they know better and they don't have time to waste with newcomers. I really think we should avoid that. Then, okay, maybe as a maintainers, we now are prepared, the right mindset, we are prepared to offer people what they want. From where do we start then? Okay, as when you go to the grocery store, you carefully prepare a list of things that you do, and this is not very different here. Take notes where you need help. Do it on a day-to-day basis, because more things are popping up, you are forgetting. So having one place where you take notes of all the matters that needs to be taken, that's good. Then, take inspirations from other projects. Look at what others do. There are a ton of cool projects out there. Everyone has some very good things in it. Just look, watch, and learn. And once you have those to-do list or wannabe list, make it easier for wannabe contributors to find it. Usually we find them in the README of your GitHub repo. We find them in the contributing.md. But the important is that it must be public, visible, easy to find, and also make it easy for wannabe contributors to reach you. Have a form where people can reach out, and also leave explicit room for people to suggest things which are not in the list, because maybe they have a better idea, again, that you have. And yeah, you will discover many things you did not know you needed until you find out they are missing. So what is going to follow now is, well, a non particularly thought of list of contributions which are very much welcome from non-code contributors that every maintainer should at least want. First and foremost, community building. I strongly believe as soon as you start your project, second thing you do is bootstrap a community. Bootstrapping a community is hard, takes time, takes a dedicated group of people. By the way, I'm going to have another talk later if you want to join, where I will share some experience also on that. So, non-technical contributors are great for that. Also for one simple reason. Usually, engineering people are not the best pro-social people to help you out with starting a community. So, again, this is where having a multidisciplinary approach, different kind of people will help. And one of the few things could be, for example, help you, and this was the case with us, define the layout of our community. So the index, like help, troubleshooting, suggest features, those kind of things. These were laid out actually by our early contributors. And some of them didn't know how to code. Then once you bootstrapped your community, they can become your moderators. A community needs moderators just to keep the information in place, to keep it well organized, to avoid redundancy of information. Then they can help you with developers onboarding, like giving suggestions on how to create a developer-friendly environment, which is, again, among the first few things you want to do when you start a project. Make sure that others can join you very quickly. Then bootstrapping the community, early postings. I mean, you create a community, it's an empty place where nobody finds value because there's no info. Have your first contributor fill it with some tutorials, some guides. And then, again, later on, they can help you with user support and troubleshooting. You're going to need that. At the beginning, the project is going to be super buggy. You need some people to ease the frustration of your first users. Fellow users are the best way to achieve that. Then, donations. We know every project requires donation. We have bills to pay, servers to pay for, tooling and whatnot. But it's not of only money that we live. And usually, it happened to us quite often, especially in the early days. Some people working in bigger companies asked the company to support us financially, in some cases, or with non-use capacity, like hosting, bandwidth, tooling. Sometimes also, those developers requested the company to dedicate some of their time to our project. And I believe if you are a successful business owner and you want to contribute with to open source, you don't have time, well, use the resources you already have in your company, and the impact can be significant. Again, using allowance for your services, other examples, storage, servers. And also, if there are existing communities that you are into which you feel are related to this project, just post there, hey guys X are doing a very cool thing. Why we of community Y don't join them in their struggle, or why don't we support them in other ways? Again, before it was mentioned that, yeah, we hate the word marketing, but yeah, we need it. We want to create an impact. We want to make cool stuff. Well, we need people to know that we are doing this and using it, basically. Another thing, well, and that really relates very well to the previous talk, graphics and Illustrator. There are a ton of graphic designers out there which we could make a great use of. So, for example, again, one of the first things that an open source project shall do after the first line of codes are written is their logo. A logo, in this day and age, make your project visible, communicates your mission, communicates your values, and if you want people to stick around and know what you're doing, you need that. Well, and there will be plenty of designers willing to help. Another thing which can help developers is system topology maps. These, for example, helped us a lot, like a working diagram on how our, let's say, architecture was being laid off in the first iteration of our code base, having it visualized, and it was actually a graphic designer which contributed to it, helped us really lay down a future-proof architecture, something that was scalable, and without having it visualized, we would not have been able to do it. Another thing related to trademark is a style guide. I know this sounds fancy, sounds very corporate, and we don't like that, but again, do you want to have some people write about your cool project on magazines, on blogs? Well, those guys need visual. Those guys need to tell a story. So provide the material with style guides or media kits is something you do once, and it can have a great effect on your communication. Or fancy badges. We really like the badges on the GitHub pages, on the READMEs. Well, maybe creating a new one. Another thing that you non-coder guys can contribute a lot is localization. Besides traditional translating X software in your language or localize it totally, which is pretty straightforward, in our experience, it proved really useful to have people from different parts of the world telling how they were using, for example, our product, our software. We discovered, for instance, when we were really focusing on music streaming from Qobuz, Tidal, those streaming services, that in fact, in Asia, people rely mostly on files, on their files to play music. So again, this gave us some useful hints also on the product roadmap. And this is something that, it's fairly easy to contribute. This can lead to culture-based feature prioritization. Or, coming back to communities, they can help you with creating local pages of your community with localized content, like the Italian part and whatnot. Copywriting. Yeah, I know what you think I will tell. Yeah, it's documentation. Yeah. Who enjoys writing documentation here? Wow, congrats. Well, we need to talk then. I'm not letting you go without that, yeah. But yeah, not only documentation with copywriting. You can write use cases, for example. As we said before, when we make software, it's easy for us to speak about the technology part of what we are building, because, yeah, this is our language, but it's not the language of our users. So having someone which is not technical and can actually write down the value proposition, which problem we are solving, what we are giving with our software, is more than welcome. Especially when you are really involved in designing, building a product, you know it too well to explain it in layman words. So you really something from somebody from outside, which is not as involved as you, is really a great help in doing that. Also writing how-tos, tutorial, onboarding materials for users, developers. Then, of course, is also documentation, which we are going to ask to him, of course. Everyone now is going to ask you. And this is tricky. So now I want to see all the bad faces looking at me. But yeah, you might need some legal or financial help. And this actually happened to us, as strange as it seems. First one, using the most appropriate license for your project. Not as straightforward as it sounds. We would love to use GPL v3 ideally, but that's not always the best match. And very few people actually understand what licenses implications are. So if you have this kind of knowledge, please talk with project founders. They really need that before getting into trouble or doing something very stupid with what they do. Same goes for terms of service. Again, we live in a world where somebody is very litigious. Even if we are peaceful people, we come in peace, somebody else might not be. So if you happen to have legal background and have some time to dedicate, this is, I believe, very much needed. Coming back to licensing, another very tedious and boring things, which usually corporations do, but I believe that we should also, is make a due diligence of all the libraries, the submodules, everything that we use in our project to spot potential license conflicts. Something that will not harm you, but is something that is indeed useful. Then attribution rules. We know that some project requires to hand over intellectual property to the maintainers. As unpleasant as it sounds, it is actually quite important to then enforce that the open source license is actually respected. This is something that happened to us. The moment you want to defend the freedom of the license, you need to be in a legal position to do so, and you need some code attribution agreement to be signed by everyone which contributes to your project. Maybe also you want to become a non-profit organization. We know for a fact that many projects operate this way, which is a great way, but you need knowledgeable people to make it happen. So again, if you have the legal background to make it happen, propose that. I think you might be surprised to see that founders accept. And, but this might look less urgent, verify regulatory compliance. In the unlikely event that you handle data, well, you might want to be compliant with GDPR. And again, this is one of those things which very few people understand. So if you are in the know, well, your contribution is very, very welcome. Then I'm going down the rabbit hole here. Yeah, I was expecting potatoes coming this way, tomatoes, but yeah, okay, I'm safe. All right. Again, in the world that we live in, if again we aim to have a significant user base, we need some money to make it happen, at least to pay the bills for the servers, and sometimes to scale the project up, having other skill in our development team. So fundraising is important. We've had actually people reaching out to us suggesting how we could fundraise, whether it was Patreon, whether it was a donation button via PayPal. And yeah, if they didn't suggest and show a clear roadmap on how to do it, I don't think we would have done it, considering how early stage we were. And we were devoting 100% of our time to get the product out. Also, business plan ideas. Again, we've had people coming to us, sending an emails, hey guys, I know this company which might be interested in using what you guys are doing and potentially funding your project. So no matter where your professional background comes from, you can actually make bridges from your employer, if you think that's fit, to this particular project. And I believe this is a very nice way to sustain the open source model. And then organizational management. This will happen at a later stage in your project when you have a lot of people working for you. And this happened to us this summer. Actually, somebody approached and said, look guys, if you need, I can help you with some coaching and getting your organization up to speed, getting you guys some formal training. And yeah, it proved quite useful. Another thing, okay, maybe you're a coder, maybe you're a technical person, but you don't want to make code necessarily for 12 hours a day, let alone on your evening. You can still suggest best practices, tooling, architectures. This is something recurring. Every now and then, we receive suggestions from people which are clever enough to look at our technical stack and suggest a better way for us to do things. Right now, we manage roughly 50 servers plus serverless functions, and we had people over time reaching out with just few tips, and they helped us scale a lot. Or enforcing best practices with your core development team, like enforcing Agile, Scrum, etc. And since sometimes technical contributors are not actually developers on the daily job, they might be unaware of such good practices. But again, since you have a very limited throughput with a small team, increasing efficiencies through best practices is very, very welcome. And then, yeah, telling stories. Hey, I know the other guys at this project X, they did this. It really worked out well for them. Again, this is a nice way to contribute. Then again, marketing. And so it has been really well accepted today, huh? Incredible. But yeah, again, bridging similar communities. The more people knows about your project, the better it is for you, because you have more feedbacks, maybe more wannabe contributors. So a simple way to help a project that you discovered that you love is cross-posting. Post on another community where people might have a similar need. Tell them, hey, there are those guys which might be doing something cool. And yeah, it costs you like 2 minutes of your time, but it can have great, great impact. The same goes for sharing on social media, on your IRC, on your mailing list. Whatever you can do to bring new users to the project you want to contribute to, this is invaluable. Also, from users, you have a couple of very useful things you can donate to maintainers, which is, okay, analyze what is the problem, what is the value that this project is bringing, and give them your feedbacks. Are they hitting product market fit? Are they actually solving a real use case, or is there something that they have neglected? This is really part of being in a community where you give active feedbacks. And yeah, give them feedbacks to founders as much as you want, because this is really gold. If founder is clever enough to listen to your suggestions, this is going to be extremely, extremely precious for them. Then, design and engineering. Are you an industrial designer? Well, design a cool 3D case that you can 3D print for an electronic project you found online. There are so many examples, both in our communities and in others, where this is a fantastic contribution, especially for people which are doing hardware and they need actually to wrap it in a nice package. Or electronic design. And actually, this is a nice story which happened to us. We had some brilliant community members doing some designs, putting them open source and gifting it to the community, Dario, which is here. And this is how we ended up working together. And this is something which emerged lately, especially for those projects which rely on hardware. Usually, understanding if you did things properly or not requires very expensive measurement equipment, which is very hard to have, especially in the early stages. If you happen to have knowledge and these fancy measurement equipment, just write an email, hey guys, I can measure things for you. Again, this is a great, great help. Testing, feedbacks. Well, there's a lot. You didn't think there was such a lot of things that non-technical people can contribute, but yeah, there is. Test boring use cases which maybe nobody will ever encounter, or maybe in a fraction of the time. Hunt for bugs. Also, before someone spoke about, yeah, going through the list of bugs and maybe filling in missing information for developers to hunt. Provide feedback for user experience, testing plugins or third-party integrations. Remember, developers, they always have a specific way of testing what they do, if they test. when they test. So testing in different scenarios is invaluably important. And then, last but not least, UI, UX. Again, one of the things I believe open source can improve dramatically is offering a smooth, refined, well-thought user experience and UI. So we need to onboard more designers. And actually, I'm lucky to tell that a lot of what our user experience is today, our user interface also, came from community feedbacks. People were sending us mock-ups, they were sending notes on what was happening, which felt wrong to them. And this is something that has a great, great value, because first, having a good UX study costs a ton of money, and basically you are augmenting the resources of the project. But also, I believe that this is the first approach that a user has with what you do. And the better you make it, the smoother it goes. So that's crucial. Also defining some UX requirements, like animations shall take X 100 milliseconds, or we should not have more than 3 clicks. This is especially useful for developers when they shape the program, and can really help them with those guidelines. And then again, reporting, polluting with ideas from different projects. Again, we should learn when somebody does something better than we do, is worth taking notice. And yeah, so this has been my experience being lucky enough to receive all those non-code contributions. So this is why I'm inviting both technical and non-technical people here to find something that they can contribute to open source project and make an actual impact, help us make an impact. So really, thank you very much for listening.
Do we have any questions? All right. Okay.
Hi, hello. As a developer community, I don't know if this is just in our part of the world, we do find it difficult on the design part. And you mentioned there's actually a lot of resources that give these aspects, the non-developer side or talents, right? Could you just maybe share? You know, you also don't want to have designs that are super generic, right? You want to be quite nice, branded-wise, etc. Even things like, you know, making shirts and things like that, stickers. So maybe you could share more of these collaterals that you could find?
I'm not sure I got your question, sorry.
You mentioned there were, in one of your slides, you mentioned that sometimes there's free access to designs or logos even. I just wanted to get more information on that part, how to get designers involved further.
All right. Well, how to get designers? Well, as usual, you need to hunt people where they hang out. So possibly, you know, when, if you know some UX communities, well, just go there, post, hey guys, we need your help doing this, doing that. Then, of course, I agree with what you said. It's difficult sometimes to breach what a designer suggests and what is actually possible on the development side. Usually, making those two communicate effectively is very hard. But, for example, just providing mock-ups, I believe, is a very useful, let's say, visual clue on how to do things. Rather than explaining how it should be done, an image can bridge those two different skill sets quite more easily.
So I have two short questions for you. One is, one of the things that I observe is that there's always a very large amount of imposter syndrome from people who have genuinely good skill sets who want to contribute, but kind of stop themselves out of some kind of fear of criticism, or they're just not confident in themselves. Is that something that you've noticed? And then secondly, I noticed one of your points was that there is no such thing as a contribution that you should not accept from someone. Everything that someone submits is useful. And have you ever really had to think about a submission that someone has made and go, gosh, do we really use that? Is that a consideration you've ever had to take?
Well, thank you. Very good questions. So to reply to your first question, yeah, we had many contributions from people which were really humble, and they were afraid sometimes of not providing something useful. And again, this is, in my opinion, related to what I explained, when you go in certain groups and they reply, read the manual, these kind of things. But yeah, again, making it very clear that this is a contribution-friendly environment by the tone of voice you have in the community, by also having a discussion on everything that is being suggested, and this comes to your second question, gives people confidence to not feeling judged of they can say whatever and it's going to be evaluated at least. And to your second question, what I mean is not to accept any kind of contributions, but rather don't dismiss anything. So you receive a contribution that must be evaluated, that must be discussed, that you should not say, hey, yeah, no, we are never going to think about that. Just take it into consideration, because this, again, will boost confidence for everyone that they're being listened to, and that even if, maybe they are making a contribution which is not at the right time. This also happens a lot. Maybe people suggest one thing which you don't have enough maturity to do. At least it's being kept into consideration. For a community, this is very important that everybody feels listened to. Because, again, they invested their time, and you should show appreciation no matter what. And this then creates this snowball effect of people contributing more.
Hi, community manager, so I'm loving your talk. In recognizing non-code contributors, what are some of the favorite things that people have liked in getting that recognition from you or your communities, like swag or just a public thank you, or what are some of the favorite things people have enjoyed from that?
Well, I believe that it was suggesting something and finding it in the next release. This has been one of the very cool. We really see that people is very happy when that happens, because they know they are making a difference. It's actually happening. Or simply saying thank you, or simply starting a long discussion about it. We do not provide, let's say, gifts in exchange of contributions. Maybe we have, let's say, a more inner circle of developers and moderators, where they get some swags or some of other products, of our products in advance, or free subscriptions. But yeah, acknowledgement that you listen to this, and again, finding in the next release was the best, gift that we gave to our contributors.
We have about 6 minutes. Any more questions? Okay.
So sorry. I don't have a question per se, but I do have a comment. As a security nerd, one other way that non-coders can participate is through, developing a security policy for your project, like how you handle vulnerabilities, and then when you actually have vulnerabilities discovered, that whole process of managing that vulnerability, figuring out who's going to fix the issue, things like fuzzing, things like developing a threat model. What are the risks? if you've got an audio piece of software, do people take random pieces of audio, snippets off the internet? Maybe they're malicious, right? Developing those sorts of threat models, things like that, and publishing that threat model are great ways that, non-coders, but with some kind of understanding can help a project as well.
Yeah, absolutely. We've had many security disclosures done properly, and this helped quite a lot, actually. And in hindsight, I was very ashamed to have those security O's, but luckily there was somebody which reported those to us. Yeah, I should have mentioned, actually.
Right. They happen to everybody, right? I mean, code's written by human people. We all make mistakes. Right?
Let's give him a hand.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you so much.